What is up, YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of Oxygen Not Included, Season 2. So we are coming straight back into the base as it was at the end of last episode. I haven't really done anything off camera or off screen. But there is still issues with the cooling system. And those issues are... It is working-ish. I mean, nothing's breaking per se. But there's not enough, so I don't have an infinite loop, and what I'm using, like the brine to cool down this bottom base here, it's not going to last forever, and in fact I am struggling to manage it, and if that continues, and plus obviously steel is coming up next, and we're going to have to keep the refinery cooled, we're going to have a problem. So I need another solution, and I'm going to take a random guess that I think in terms of this asteroid, we may be out of options for resources remaining. There are a couple of cold areas that I might try and use, two of which are the fossils that seem to remain negative 200. If I can try and use them to do some cooling for me, that would be good. But in the meantime, I think I'm going to probably look elsewhere. And by elsewhere, I mean another asteroid. So, we have got the refinery put in. Not plumbed in yet, but put in. The generators for the natural gas can be upgraded. They're 800 each now, and there's 4 of them, yes. So 3200 energy there for when they are running, but they only run, of course, when the batteries run out. And that's only if the heat system, the thermal system, packs up or is not enough to run the base. We've got some hydrogen, somehow. I don't think I did that. I might have done. Trapped in the farm, which is stopping stuff from growing. So what I need to do... Luckily, hydrogen is the lightest of the gases, to my knowledge. Certainly the more common ones, anyway. So all I need to do is pop a hole in the top, and that should slowly filter out, and then replace it with carbon dioxide. For the plants that are in there, you can use carbon dioxide and oxygen. And of course, carbon dioxide we've got loads of, and we don't use. Oxygen we do use. Polluted oxygen's okay too, but I don't have that stored either. So what I'll do is knock out the hole there in the wall, and that should allow that to escape through there. It's not super quick, but it's quick enough that it should work. And over a period of time, that'll push up. As soon as the crops are out of the hydrogen, I can close that up again to make sure that we don't start losing carbon dioxide as well. That should do it. So I'll now chuck another insulated tile back in here. The crops will continue to grow. The carbon dioxide that's in there should easily keep the hydrogen pushed up to the surface, whatever's left, when it needs to anyway. It only needs a couple of tiles, and the hydrogen can have that top tile. Got no problem there. I could maybe make it better, or even use a pump and make it perfect, but I don't see the point. There's a lot of other problems I'm having to deal with at the minute. So that is the least of my worries. As long as the crops are growing, people are being fed. So working on the system here, we're going to need a way of cooling down the liquid that we use as the coolant. Of course, ethanol is my go-to, and likely that will be on, or no, that is on the next asteroid when we get there. So putting that in a closed loop is a good idea. For now, I can use this brine that's coming down that I'm using to cool the power station. The idea there is that as long as I can get the actual steel working, even if I get a few out of it, that means I can then build some items out of steel, and they're very good at heat resistance. It adds like 200 degrees onto the stop point, so it will allow me to actually set up a cooling system that's a bit safer, because having something made out of copper in a cooling system is very, very easy for it to pack up. Just above here, I'm going to put an electrolysis setup. Quite simple. Electrolysis in a room converts the water into its two elements of oxygen and hydrogen. Of course, we collect the oxygen for the duplicants to breathe, and the hydrogen we dump elsewhere. Now, I have almost finished that left-hand side, getting all the gas out of there, and what I'm going to do, I think, is dump all of my hydrogen that I have in there for now and use that as a cooling area, because we're going to need to use one of the cooling systems, the machines that cools down, but it throws out so much heat. I'm gonna have to use hydrogen and a lot of gas moving, I think, to keep it cool. It'll work for a little bit, they always do, but we need it to be sustainable. I can't just have it working for a few seconds and then stop him. We're going to need a lot of steel and any resources actually that we set for the refinery without it stopping or overheating, as well as the actual duplicants that are going to be working with it or on it. They need to have oxygen and a temperature regulated room so they can handle it without dying. I don't want to lose anybody else. Jumping a bit further on, and the next room I'm setting up is for dumping the liquids that aren't quite at the right temperature. I am making this up as I go along. There are ways of going on YouTube or Google and getting builds that are perfect, but I don't like doing that when I'm playing the game. If I'm doing that, I'm just copying, and it's not really the excitement that I get from it. I like to make things myself, and most of them fail, but eventually something works. And then I save it as a blueprint. So the room to the left of the refinery, it's quite simple. The liquids that will come out of the refinery will go in there. Of course, it will be warm, because that's what happens when it comes out of the refinery. That will collect in there. I will then have a pump that sucks that and puts it into the machine I've just put down, which will then cool it. It cools it by 10 degrees each time it passes through. So the idea there is that it will cool it down by 10 degrees and go back to exactly the same room it came from. Once the liquid gets to, and I don't know yet, probably less than 0 degrees, it will go somewhere else, and then that room will be the coolant that's liable to be above all of this. And of course that can be used to cool anything really, the room and the actual processing, the coolant. And the idea is then I've got a closed loop, and it just keeps cooling it down, throwing the heat out where it is. That's why I've put it away from the base, in the hopes that the gases in this huge chamber will take away the heat from it and not allow it to get up to ridiculous temperatures like 500 degrees. Okay, so jumping forward, you can see that is now done-ish. I'm still building the hydrogen oxygen room, electrolyzer room, but you can see, so that top room is everything that is less than 0. So anything that is 0 or colder goes into that top room. And in that smaller bottom room is anything any of the liquid that's higher than 0. It then goes through there again. The gas vent is in there to take. If you look at the temperature on here, you'll see that this fossil is constantly giving out negative 200 degrees and cooling the gas. So I'm stealing that colder gas and entering this room. If this room gets above 140 or 150 degrees, it pumps and throws away that hot air and replaces it with the cool air from the bottom. It's sustainable on the basis that that fossil is permanently giving out cold, I believe. Unless it doesn't, I don't know, but it should. Then in here, simple, 2 pumps, one at the top for the hydrogen, one at the bottom for the oxygen, and then a couple of gas element sensors to tell the system to pump when it sees what we want. So the top one, when it's smothered in hydrogen, it should pump. The bottom one, when it has oxygen, it should pump. So that's what I meant. You can see it's got the element sensors there. So the top one is for, well, will be set to hydrogen. The bottom one will be set to oxygen, just so that I don't get hydrogen going into my breathing system. I'll probably get a little bit. There are cleaner ways of doing this, and usually you use like a water lock that fills up so the pressure can build up. But the size of this room, it should allow it to work quite easily. It is controlled or restricted to the cold by the thermal walling and the doors, though the doors turn out to be absolute crap, but we'll get to that later in the video when I actually realise that they're crap. For now, it seems to be working. Okay, so we've jumped over to a new asteroid, and with that we have one duplicant and another one that is still in the deep freeze. I'm over here for anything really, but liquid is the main solution I would like. We can see there is a lot of polluted water, which is fantastic. We can use that and clean it up. There is also cold biomes that we can melt down, but there is indeed ethanol as well. That's there to the left, bottom left, that lighter bluish green colour. That we can get to very, very cold, like negative 150, I think, can't remember, and it won't freeze. But the first things first really is we need to rip open a path to both of the teleporters to allow us to send items to this asteroid that's required for these duplicates, and also send over the stuff we're here for to our home planet, home asteroid. They already have a bathroom set up. They don't have a bed set up. They have a little bit of food, and then there's the teleporters as well to send new duplicates or ones away from here. So the first thing I need to do is get them digging here. Once I unlock the other duplicate, we need to get beds in as well. I did have a lot of problems with the fact that, to be honest, there's a lot of digging. I didn't really pick the best diggers. Well, I didn't the best digger because the duplicate in that cryo freeze is not one I chose. Didn't build the bed in time there, so that's going to be an issue for them for that first night. But after that, I'll chuck one bunk bed down and that'll cover both of them. I don't think I need more than 2 here. And again, once we've got the 2 teleport buildings unlocked, we can keep them pretty comfortable. I'm going to delete, after I've inspected everything to get the data disks that I can get, I'll rip everything out that I don't need. The resources are good, but also it's just clutter that I don't want. Okay, so a bit forward now, and you can see I've got out the second duplicate. Also went in and just sorted out, they had a few points left over, so I used those to give them both the highest digging I could without stressing them out. The idea there being that they're going to do, well, they're the only ones I can dig with, so I need them to be available. We are going to need power on this asteroid soon, but I am going to cheese it like I always do with the asteroids that have the electronic slugs. Can't remember their exact name, mind, but you can see one there on the screen. They're very good. At night time they hang from the ceiling and give discharge 400 watts each. So all you need to do is build a simple kind of farm, make sure you feed them, lock them away, and every night they will go and give you loads of free power. Just to show you, this is my plan. Ladders for the scaffolding and able to get around, and then ripping out all of that to try and get all of this liquid. The idea is I'm trying to get as much of the liquid as possible to fall down somewhere into one place, to then get a pump and pump that straight over to the home asteroid, and then use that to cool things, clean things, whatever we need it for really. But I just want to get it over there because we didn't get much liquid to start with on the planet. Usually I have a lot more, and I keep saying planet, it's an asteroid. But anyway, so we're not going to obviously wait for them to do this. It's going to take them forever. They are very slow. So we can jump ahead a little bit. So I have left them digging away at the second asteroid and come back. And unfortunately, we've had a bit of a catastrophe. That catastrophe being that, as I expected, the coolant ran out. The area down here got overheated. Everything broke. All of it's broke now. I'm not sure if we're going to have enough steel to fix any of this, because I don't know what the word is, but I really did fudge it through to give me enough to build some of these items out of steel. Also, it doesn't appear that we have much lime left either, which means that we can't make steel anyway. Over here you can see I did build the power bug room. So all they do is hang down, and if they hang on a wire, you steal the power. Some jumbo batteries there, and I'll chuck a few more in just to make sure it lasts today, because you gain no power throughout the day, only at night time when they are asleep. So a few jumbo batteries, and that should call that done. And the only thing we're using power for at the minute is a pump to send the liquid over to the home asteroid, and you can see it all down there trapped at the bottom. And we are using it for the drop off for the teleporter as well. You can see that there in the center of the screen running away. I can't remember exactly what I'm sending over, but rest assured it will be any shells for turning into lime. I just saw it pop up there, and any of the ores as well, like a bit of cobalt, just so I've got that, because it's better than copper, not quite as good as iron, if I am not mistaken. In terms of thermal properties, I think it's about the same as gold. But gold I like to use for decorating the houses or making things look pretty, not using it for building machines if I can help it. 2 toilets in and a sink. There is still a bit of a mess from all of these liquids that I have opened up and dropped out. They never seem to fall properly. It's really annoying, but nothing you can't mop up. There is a lot of fish because they were in the water already. So once I've got a bit settled down, we have somebody that's gone to a mode of stressing thing because they got that sad. So I'm going to have to chuck in a massage table for them. And then as soon as I can, I'll build a couple of fridges as well, so that the food that we do have, which is 62,000 calories apparently, can be preserved. That is when I'll pull the trigger on telling them to kill all these fish as well, to give them some meat. I may even, if they're lucky, send over a chef, so at least they can get a mood boost from eating nice cooked barbecue. I need to open up the tops to allow that liquid through, so you can see the bottom where I've set it to go. That is the wrong thing though. I'm using gas tiles there, I think. What I actually want to do is use the liquid tiles so that the liquid will fall straight through the base, not actually congregate in the base, and down into that bottom basin, and then get pumped over to the original asteroid. And with that one on the right done, we can break open this now, and all that will happen is that liquid, or most of it, will fall straight through. It won't congregate into the base and make a mess. It will just fall down there and sent later. We will be left with little bits on the corners and puddles, of course. It always does that. The small amounts of liquid always fail to do what they are supposed to do. In this game, I've noticed that, and ice never really acts like I expect it to. If I chuck an ice cube in warm water, it would dissolve pretty quick and the water would cool down around it, but you don't do that. Ice seems to take forever to melt in this game. And then we're just doing the same there on the left-hand side. It catches the fish. Never mind. But that water will drop down as well. So one thing that's happening down at the bottom where we know it is overheating and a death trap. The first thing I need to sort out is some cooling. Them rooms are at 400-ish degrees now. We can't go in there safely. It would be suicide to try. Until we can get some coolant going through them pipes, the whole chamber and power solution down there is a no-go. Luckily, we have these, what they're called, natural gas. And you can see there we've got a full tank and a quarter of natural gas sat right there on the screen. That was good timing. And that will continue to pump into those generators that we've set up. They're working fine, and they are there specifically to be a backup. And now they're doing their job because they are backing up and keeping the base running. In the meantime, I'm trying to use where I can anyway, insulated pipes to stop any of these temperatures that are moving around from going places I don't want them. And the idea is this would just come in from that second asteroid. It's about 32 degrees. Of course, that's fine for cooling down the power room because we're talking hundreds of degrees there that we actually want to reduce it by. 30 degrees would be perfect. Actually, 30 degrees would be too cold, but it's fine. So I will do that. I'm going to rip out the reed fiber plants because we have, I think I've said it on the side, haven't I? Yeah, 333. That's more than we need, and it's just using polluted water for the sake of it, and we can use this room for something else. Once I've got this stabilized a little bit, we can look at the base again and maybe even see if we've got enough bedrooms. Again, I would like to do bedrooms with bathrooms, but I'm not convinced this setup is going to work like that. So maybe I can do, you have your own bedroom and then a couple duplicates share a bathroom, something like that. We'll see. In the meantime, I'm just going to get rid of that and chuck in the standard floor and air tiles. That will allow us to get to that when we are ready. Down at the bottom, there's a lot of water all over the floor because of the heat. It's damaged things. It was confusing me why the actual chamber above the isolated area is indeed hot, and that's where the doors come in that we'll get to very shortly. In the meantime, I just need to open that up so we can finish this plumbing because this liquid coming from the second asteroid needs to get down into them pipes. And there it goes, and yes, it's creating steam because the pipes are broken. Do not panic though, because the steam means that the temperature is dropping. It will drop the temperature because it's, cause and effect. You can't have a change of an element's type i.e. solid to liquid to gas, etc., without a temperature change. It's just the physics of it. So we will do that. And what I'm going to try and do is then get this pumped out and create a vacuum again. If I can get it down to a vacuum in here, we will be able to get in there safely because there'll be zero transfer of heat. The first thing that needs to be done is most of these repaired if we have the resources. I'm hoping we do. I did make a decent amount of steel. I'm sure I did. But we'll see. That's where the pump's going to go. And we'll see. You saw, though, that immediately upon this duplicate going through that door, that there was hot before they even got there. That's because these doors, although they do say insulated, are a lie. They are porcupine tellers, and they are crap at insulating the heat. In fact, they hold the heat and then radiate it. So all of this setup that I've got, and I'm hoping at some point soon you will see, but the actual heat in that whole bottom chamber where it's not supposed to be is radiating from that one door. The electric doors that are the insulated doors, sorry, they work fantastically. These self-locking airlock ones are apparently crap. So I will need to go through and replace them very shortly. Okay, so to catch you up, that took a long while in real life of losing people, saving, restarting. I titsed it up. The doors were causing the problem. In the end, you can see I actually just gassed off the gas. I didn't store it because all it was going to do was create heat elsewhere. And we have the setup running. Full of hydrogen again, but I have used all of the hydrogen we have stored. And we have it now set up using the liquid from the second asteroid. I am, of course, because I want that to continuously come over here. So that's what these are going to be for. Because you can see that line has stopped, so we're no longer pulling it from the second asteroid. So I want it to back up into these around the 30-degree mark. That's fine. And then use it to cool down the generators when they can. It's ugly, but it's working for now. I mean, it was working before. This concept was working before. I just ran out of the coolant, the brine. The upgrade I have done in between is, you can see it's double doored now, although the first door is always set. You can see it's green, it's holding its temperature fantastically like it's supposed to. The other ones were crap. But the second door, you can see, is locked open. There is a thermostat just inside. That is set to allow the duplicates in there if that room is below 100 degrees. If the room gets above 100 degrees, it locks the door and stops the duplicates from going in there. Because, again, the part where I've not shown it, because it was embarrassing, they kept dying. I don't know why they go in there when they're already half dead and don't go to the hospital. It made no sense to me, but it was my fault for setting it up wrong in the first place, or at least using a coolant that is crap. Now, I am going into the moving now of buildings, and we've finally got there. So all you do is click on the trophy and then click what building you want to move, and there you go, it moved it. And again, click on the trophy, click what building you want to move, click move it, and click, and it moves those buildings. You could do that with geysers and everything. It is a bit cheesy if you don't kind of play like that. Just, it is expensive and uses quite a lot of steel, so you will need steel to do any of this. But it means that I can make my base symmetrical without building around crap I do not want. So we've got the teleporter in there for the people with, well, duplicates. We've got the teleporters in there now for the resources, both in and out. And that is nice and clean for me. And then back up here to the steel room. So we know we're going to need steel now. I have made quite a lot. There's about, I don't know, what is that, 90? I can't read because it's not they're not the right size for me when I'm doing the overview. I think it's 19 tons. But so this process is working nicely. You can see that top chamber is all the negative sort of 8 or 9 degree liquid. The small chamber that's currently empty is the warmer liquid, and it keeps going round. And what I'm actually going to do now is take that top liquid and use it in the same loop. So the one I'm setting up now, you can see, is just a pipe that will cool the room. So the idea is that when the room, and there will be a thermometer, is above 40 degrees, which is uncomfortable for the duplicates, it will send cool water around there and cool it down. like so, and then the automation is simple. I'm putting a thermometer on either side of the machine into an OR gate, and that will say that if either of those, so if the left hand trigger goes above 40 degrees or the right hand trigger goes above 40 degrees, then it will turn the pump on. The pump will then go through, as you can see, onto them radiating platforms that I've put in through the utility tab. I can't remember what I used. I think I used copper to build them. Not sure. Diamond's better, but I'm not sure I've got any. And they'll keep that room cool. So now we have... You can already see there is an oxygen generator right next to the machine so they can breathe. We now have made it so that they can be comfortable when they're doing it and they're not going to bake. All we need to do now is figure out a more resourceful way of cooling the actual machine itself down. But you don't need to see that, because all I do is exactly the same. I take the water from that top chamber, recycle it, it then goes through, gets cooled down, rinse and repeat. So that same bit of brine that I have there is going to keep the refinery running and cool, and the room cool, as you can see right there. We are at time now, or at least over time, so I am going to end the episode here. So thank you very much for watching. If you like the video, please click like. Any comments are welcome as always. Subscribe for more. Any ideas or tips, tricks, or anything you feel you could add to this playthrough, and I'm not saying I'm an expert, so I am always willing to learn new things. But remember, I don't really like to copy other people's things, perfect builds. I like to just make it up as I go along. Anyway, thank you again for watching. Take care. Goodbye.